When I was 25 and a half, I started a podcast. The goal? To review some of the newest and latest movies, along with some other stuff. With the help of my guests, I was able to do this, but there were dark forces tampering with my podcast, and with me. They called it an improvised podcast for some reason. I eventually found help in the form of myself. Yes, the me from a universe where the movies I reviewed got delayed. Apparently, my podcast made it to his universe. I know now that it is my duty, for the good of that universe, nay, the multiverse, to keep recapping and reviewing these movies, to hold listeners over until they could eventually see the movies as they were made in their world. For some reason, they come out differently in my world, but it's kind of entertaining that way. My name is Steven Schinder, and this is Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. This is Steven Schinder, your host on every episode of this podcast, which, if you don't know what podcast this is, I don't know how you got here, but this is Delayed Replay, that podcast where we review movies that got delayed in that other universe, or in this instance, even movies that people might have forgotten came out. Like, for example, that Space Jam 2 movie that we covered a few weeks ago, or whenever that was. And we're covering another Jam movie today. This time it's Spy Jam. But first, introductions are in order. You may have heard him before if you've listened to previous episodes. It is Mr. Multiverse.
Greetings, one and all.
Yes, as opposed to all and one, because the order matters, because the other way would have sounded weird.
Shut up.
Yeah, like I started that joke, and then like halfway through, I was like, "Oh no, I don't know how to end this joke." Like it's kind of like when people write a TV show and they're not sure how to end it, I guess. But anywho, yeah, thanks for joining me again, Mr. Multiverse. So, like I said off the top, we're covering Spy Jam, the second of the Space Jam sequels, which people may have forgotten about because of the memory erasing feature at the end. First, what are your thoughts on like the Looney Tunes franchise in general?
I've always been a big fan of it. I've always liked it more than I'd say the Disney cartoons. Probably because there was just a little more clever writing. And also this one it wasn't afraid to be like, we're going to hit you in the head with something heavy, it's going to hurt. And also it probably shaped my version of humor. So, yeah, also, fun fact, and I know this is apparently DC Comics has made Looney Tunes and Mortal Kombat part of their multiverse.
Nice. Have you ever checked out the Looney Tunes and DC crossovers that DC has published over the years?
Yeah, I actually have one of the trades, and yeah, it's hard to believe, but like Batman and Elmer Fudd is like one of the best stories I've read.
Yeah, that one was surprisingly good. Like some of the crossovers are hit and miss, but that one and like the Martian Manhunter meeting Marvin the Martian one, those ones are really good. It's unbelievable like how good the writing and also the art are for those.
And the weird thing is Tom King made those versions of Looney Tunes canon in his Batman run.
Oh, right, because he's does the run that's like part of Rebirth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read some of his run. I can't remember where in the series I am, but I remember there's like lots of Tom King hate I was seeing online. And I mean, as far as I read, like in the series, I was like, I'm not sure what the Tom King hate is at this moment. I don't know.
I think King works better in trade than single issues. And also, like, I think he works better when it's a shorter story, because I feel like it just kind of dragged on. His run kind of just dragged on a little too long, and it just kind of burned out at the end. But I will say, like, his first trilogy, his I Am Gotham, I Am Suicide, and I Am Bane, and I personally like War of Jokes and Riddles, but I think, like, those first few volumes are, like, some of his best work in Batman.
Yeah, I think I've read some of those, like the I Am Suicide and the other ones I'm very familiar. So I think I've read them. I would just have to like look at my reviews of them to like refresh my memory of what happened. But yeah, I think comic book writers sometimes like they have their strengths and weaknesses, right? Like I felt that Scott Snyder, who did the New 52 run of Batman, like I thought it was a really great run for the most part, but I thought that the stories that he did that focused on the Joker more were his weaknesses. Like I kind of felt like the arcs that mainly focused on the Joker kind of fizzle out toward the end. I might be in the minority there, but yeah.
No. I think you're right. Like, I think some of his Joker stuff is a little overblown, especially when we get to the Batman Who Laughs, and the Dark Knight Metal stuff. But looking back, I think Scott Snyder's he say what you want about Snyder, like he managed to be the only writer to stay on his entire New 52 run, and he's been like a golden, like, God bless him. He loves writing this stuff. But yeah, but Scott Snyder, like, I like him in like more of his indie horror stuff, like Wytches and American Vampire.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I need to check that out probably because I do love my horror and I've enjoyed much of what Snyder has put out. So yeah, and I also really love the art during his run. Like the artist, I think his name is Greg Capullo. He did a really great job illustrating those stories during that run.
Oh yeah, Greg Capullo, who he had already done like kind of superhero horror stuff with Spawn. But yeah, I think I think he was a perfect fit for Snyder's Batman run.
Yeah, but getting back to Looney Tunes.
Sorry.
No, yeah, we always go on tangents on the show anyway, and there's sometimes like the best parts of the episode, in my opinion. So have you ever seen the first Space Jam movie?
Yeah, I actually distinctly remember going to theaters as a kid seeing it. First Space Jam, it's really well done. I think obviously Michael Jordan still can't act. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, even back then, I was like, I don't care about this guy. And keep in mind, I was a dumb kid who never really got into sports, especially basketball. Even now, like, even if I do enjoy football and hockey, basketball is just a sport that I was ever like, it's there. But yeah, I was just like, I don't care about this guy. And I understand, like, back then, Michael Jordan was like Tom Brady now. But like, even as a kid, I was like, I don't care who this is. I want to see Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, as a kid, like all my life, I've never been really into sports, but I remember like as a kid, I just loved watching Space Jam, and I actually did think Michael Jordan was charismatic. I mean, I've told this story on the Space Jam 2 episode, but there were times when I kind of used his name as like my nickname for some weird reason, I guess because I really liked the movie. But I have heard those criticisms though that like Michael Jordan can't act. So I guess it varies from person to person. But I think like I've talked about before in Space Jam 2, like if anyone remembers that 1999 movie that people like had their memories erased of, like it's significantly lesser quality acting. Like he's just phoning it in that one, which I guess makes him look better in the first one, I suppose. Have you ever seen that meme where it's like to prepare for Space Jam, Michael Jordan played 9 seasons of the NBA or something?
I did. I've seen that.
Yeah, I love that meme. But yeah, so after Space Jam 2, he of course retired from basketball and didn't want to do another Jam movie. Of course, since it made enough money, Warner Brothers was like, hey, we need to make more of these Jam movies. And so Spy Jam with Jackie Chan was the next one. And they also like were developing Race Jam with Jeff Gordon, and between Looney Tunes Back in Action was going to come out, and then later on Skate Jam. And so, yeah, there have been quite a few of these, but
yeah, you want to talk about like cinematic universes, no one talks about the Jamverse.
Yeah. Partially because of the memory racing feature at the end of some of them, but yeah, it's like a really underrated cinematic universe, I guess.
You want to dive into this?
Oh yeah, I want to dive into this like it's a pool of jello that is green.
Nice save.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off by like Jackie Chan. Like, where have your experiences been with like Jackie Chan? Like, what are some of your favorite works of his that you've seen?
Of course, you've got the Rush Hour movies. I think that's where we all first saw
Yes.
the Rush Hour movies. Like that was my first experience seeing Jackie Chan was Rush Hour 2. I have this
Nice.
thing with sequel movies where I'll see the sequel before the original movie. I don't know why
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, I think I saw the first one before the second one, but I know for a fact that I watched Jackie Chan Adventures before seeing Rush Hour. I think, like I think it was around the time, like me and my brother would watch TV. Like in his room, he'd watch WB, like their whole cartoon block, whatever it was called at the time, and Jackie Chan Adventures was a favorite. And I've made this joke before that in Jackie Chan Adventures, Jackie Chan does his own stunts.
Yeah.
I think it was sometime during the first season or maybe the first two seasons when I recall watching Rush Hour at some point and then later the second one. And yeah, like it's just Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker have real good chemistry in those movies. The first one is the best one in my opinion, and then I remember loving the third one when I saw it in the theater, but if I watched it again now, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's such a great like the first Rush Hour movie is just so wildly entertaining. I love it.
Yeah. It's also really good on the creators of Warner Brothers not to call Space Jams, I mean Spy Jam Spy Chan. That's a whole can of worms. If
Oh
they had
wow.
done that. If they had called it because like I remember hearing somewhere was like, oh, instead of Spy Jam, let's call it Spy Chan. Get it? Spy, Spy Jackie because Jackie Chan's a spy. I'm glad someone at the Warner Brothers board went, how about we don't do that?
Yeah, that would have been not a good choice, but yeah, like they have to keep the jam title in the movie title, I guess. And yeah, like I do love how there's still like that alliteration, like Spy Jam and Space Jam still sound somewhat similar. So you still kind of have that brand recognition. Like, how big of a spy movie fan would you say you are, or if at all? Like, do you like spy movies that much?
I wouldn't say I like go out to look at spy movies, mostly because like, okay, everyone loves James Bond, but like,
Not me.
well, everyone loves James Bond, but like, I'm just with stuff like Mission Impossible and stuff like that, or Jason Bourne, I'm like, I just don't see the appeal. Like, bottom line, I'm just not a big spy guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I've seen all the James Bond movies just so that I could say I've seen all of them. They all feel kind of the same to me. Like, I know there are obviously some differences and whatnot, but they just don't, like, I don't care as much about them. Although No Time to Die was kind of a bit of a surprise, like, in terms of how much I enjoyed that last year. But yeah, like that and like the Bourne movies, like the Bourne movies blend together in my head, sort of. I do remember as a kid, I really loved the Spy Kids movies. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I just thought they were fun at the time. And like Spy Kids 3D was the first 3D movie I ever saw in the theater.
Yeah. I lost interest with the Spy Kids movie even as a kid, like after seeing the first movie. I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, because again, like it just plays into I don't care about spies.
You're telling me you didn't like the robots where like the head and the limbs are all thumbs?
In hindsight, it looks like something Robert Rodriguez had while doing a line of coke. I mean, let's be real. Like that whole idea, that whole storyline was like every time he was doing a pitch, he would do in between a paragraph like a line of coke and keep going.
This is why I'm more of a Pepsi fan. But yeah, Robert Rodriguez is it's weird because he has those like really mature, violent action movies, but then over here on the side, he does these silly action kid movies with like Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl and We Can Be Heroes, that Netflix movie from a few months ago that's actually really bad, but also kind of entertaining to see how bad it is.
It's like it was like watching a beautiful train wreck.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I guess like he kind of like runs through like the whole spectrum of cinema, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah, with Spy Jam, I thought it was really cool that we got to see like Jackie Chan interact with like the animated Jackie Chan from Jackie Chan Adventures, because this kind of like plants the seeds for Looney Tunes back in action, where you see like the actors like interacting with the animated characters. Like you see like Shaggy and Matthew Lillard talking to each other in back in action. So yeah, this was like a really interesting moment. But I thought it was funny when like the animated Jackie Chan was like you show that they're like filming a scene for the show, right? And he's like really afraid to do a stunt, like jump on a building or whatever. And so they end up having to like take a break to animate another Jackie Chan to be his stunt double.
Yeah. Like the whole theme of this movie was basically Jackie Chan feels like he's getting old and wants to retire, and he feels like the movie industry is passing him by. That's why they made the animated double.
Yeah, and like this came out like in 2002. Yeah, it's funny like in hindsight looking back and this whole retirement aspect, and it's like today he's still like doing movies, I think, and it's like yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, he's still doing movies. Not good movies, but movies. Okay, for reference, have you heard of his latest movie in China called Iron Mask?
No, I think the last Jackie Chan movie I saw was I think the most recent one I've seen is The Spy Next Door, and before that was like the Karate Kid remake that should have been called The Kung Fu Kid, but alas.
Yeah. He did another movie called The Foreigner, which was like it felt like two movies got spliced together like Godzilla versus Kong, and it was okay. But like Iron Mask, you should look up for it on Hulu. It's this weird story of like involving the man in the Iron Mask, but it involves dragons and gods, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is there with a wig. It's weird.
Okay, I'm looking it up on Wikipedia, and like the first thing that came up was a 1929 film. I'm pretty sure Jackie Chan's not that old. It's weird because like Jackie Chan has a really expansive filmography, and I feel like I've only skimmed the surface of it. So like I have no idea what the good to bad movie ratio is for him.
It varies. But like with this movie, it was interesting because like the funny thing about this story is like he wants to retire from acting, but also wants to retire from spying, because we find out that like all the spy movies he's done, which is a ton, I will tell you, were all like actual exploits in his life, and it was just like his stories during his spy adventures made into movies.
Yeah, I feel like there's like some other franchise that's kind of done that. I can't remember what it is though. I know that they have Timothy Dalton's character Damian Drake. He's like also a spy character in this, and like he also has like a similar thing going on where like he's an actor but also a spy, and it's like I thought it was cool seeing his interactions with Jackie Chan every now and then in this movie.
Yeah, but like at the same time, I'm like, how? Like I understand that that Jackie Mania is running wild at this point, but like we're really gonna do the thing where it's like, oh, everything he did was real life. Because I feel like we've done this like several times in other movies too, have we?
I mean, it's kind of like the Han Solo thing. It's true, all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like oddly, the first thing that comes to mind, like I know like Looney Tunes Back in Action kind of did this, but like the first thing that came to mind when
like thinking about this idea. It was have you ever played the Ratchet and Clank games?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, in the third game, Up Your Arsenal, Clank is also an actor, and it's like, I guess he acts in spy movies that are very loosely based on some of his missions with Ratchet, I think. Maybe it's just the movie that shows up at the end of that game, but yeah, it's I definitely feel like this has been done in a bunch of things. And then you have like weird stuff like My Name is Bruce, where Bruce Campbell finds himself in an Evil Dead like situation.
Yeah. I also like how like this movie is definitely of its time, because on the Looney Tunes side, you see that they're like the tunes themselves are like feel like they're being brushed aside by the new wave of Warner Brothers cartoons, like Ed, Edd and Eddy and Dexter's Lab, and you see them like they feel like they're delisting now.
Yeah, I felt really nostalgic watching this movie because, like, I know some people like are like really hate some of the recent Cartoon Network stuff, and I mean some of it does look pretty bad, like Thundercats Roar and stuff like that. But I think there are still some good shows here and there. I just maybe don't pay attention as much with what's going on with Cartoon Network now, but I really loved those like 90s and 2000s cartoons because obviously like we grew up on them, right? And you had like these really cool commercials with like the Cartoon Network town and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even later on, like Miguzzi, like I loved that whole block.
Yeah. I especially love the little in this movie. I love the thing where Bugs is like in his trailer, like he's clearly trying not to be bothered by the the influx of these new cartoons, and like someone knocks on his trailer door and it's frickin' Goku, and he's like, "You're not even from this studio."
It's really cool how they have like these Warner Brothers animated characters, but also like are able to inject a little bit of anime as well.
It's also fun because like in 2002, like this is like Toonami evolving. Like everything was kind of at an evolutionary point in 2002, right? Like we were transitioning into like a new era of cartoons, and Pokemon was at its height, and like this movie shows that like there's this what would it be like if there were cartoons who were dealing with this influx of new shows and like this new era for kids viewing.
What's your favorite Pokemon theme song?
Well, that's a random question. Everyone goes original. I like the Johto theme.
Oh yeah, Johto Journeys is my favorite.
It's such a bop, right?
Yeah, it is. Like I know that the like Indigo League theme is like classic and iconic, but I just really love how Johto Journeys sounds. And I also loved Pokemon Karaoke Mon, the thing that was like at the end of the episodes of that season.
Yeah. But yeah, like I was like, man, everyone goes for the classic theme, but I'm like, Johto theme though.
In terms of Toonami, like I remember like as a kid, like my brother again was the one who kept up with Toonami, but every now and then I would like see the commercials with like what's his name, Tom, the guy who like is on the ship, and I'd be like, is there ever going to be like a Toonami movie or something? Like when is this going to happen? It was kind of like when I would see those Wiener Schnitzel commercials with the talking hot dog, and I'd be like, wait, is this an ad for a movie? When's the movie going to come out? And just never came out.
Yeah. Like I was saying with the movie, like I like that kind of like we're paralleling Jackie's kind of like need to retire from both spy and acting, while we're paralleling with Bugs's kind of he feels like he wants to retire from doing the cartoon business. And I like that thing where he's talking to Porky and he's like, "Now I know how the mouse feels."
Yeah, and then Speedy Gonzalez comes along and is like, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Nothing," and just brushes him off.
He's like, no, not you. He's like, "Not you, Speedy, the other mouse."
Because like that was a Mickey Mouse reference, right?
Yeah.
You make a good point of how like it's something I never thought about until like this discussion, but Looney Tunes really does feel like the antithesis to like classic Disney cartoons because they're more violent and slapstick than Disney cartoons in general, right?
Yeah. It was like, oh, we're all wholesome here at Disney, at the Disney cartoons. We have a little slapstick, but it's more like, don't you feel good by the end of it? But with Looney Tunes, it's more like, yeah, let's see what kind of bullcrap Bugs can pull on Daffy today.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny how, I mean, bringing it back to comic books, like Marvel is under Disney and DC has like been associated with Warner Brothers for a long time. So it's like there's like this huge duality thing in terms of like animation and comics. It's like they're two different sides of like the same coin, I guess. It's really weird dichotomy.
Yeah. I will say that like it's actually kind of funny that you bring up the DC and Warner thing because there was for the longest time over at Marvel Comics, there was the inside joke with the writers and staff saying that they called DC Comics Warner Comics because they were bought out by Warner. And then the buyout by Disney happened and they shut the hell up.
Disney Comics.
Yeah, because if I remember, there was this conversation I was listening into on a podcast, and they were talking about how like during a joint Marvel DC panel, like someone said, we used to call you guys Warner Comics for the longest time of the DC. I can't remember which DC writer it was, and he went, "That's okay." He's like, "That's okay, Disney Comics."
I would actually be interested in seeing if there are any like Marvel and Disney crossover comics, because I did enjoy, like I said, some of the Looney Tunes and DC crossovers, and like there's no doubt in my mind that some of the Marvel and Disney crossovers would probably be hit and miss, but I'd be interested in like seeing like what they could do, like what characters could cross over.
The Disney Marvel thing is barely noticed. Like you barely have it. The only thing, there's only like one, maybe two instances where they cross over. One is a Phineas and Ferb special involving the Avengers.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
And then there's, in Howard the Duck comics, Seuss from Gravity Falls makes a cameo.
Oh, wow. I love Gravity Falls, so that's really cool.
Yeah, he has an argument with Howard in the comic.
Nice. I'm surprised they didn't do like a Howard the Duck and like DuckTales or Donald Duck crossover type of thing. Or maybe they have and we just don't know. I don't know.
They've been really restrained with Disney and Marvel crossing over. I don't know if that's like part of the deal, or they're just like Disney feels like we don't want to cross promote things. Meanwhile, over at Warner and DC, we're like, do whatever, man.
Yeah, I do remember a few years ago, there was an episode of Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, I wasn't keeping up with the show, but I heard that there was like a crossover between that and some Disney Channel show called Jessie. So,
yeah, it was there. I didn't watch it, but like I saw the commercial for it being promoted on the Marvel YouTube channel, and I was like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, I remember rolling my eyes about it.
Honestly, like there's so much potential for Disney and Marvel, and people like, you just got to pick the right things. Like, how many people would be dying for a Doctor Strange and Gravity Falls crossover?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Or like, I don't know, like you said, Howard the Duck and Donald the Duck. But yeah, like you look over at Disney, I mean DC and Warner, like hell, we've had like Superman show up in a Looney Tunes cartoon, and we've had like them open, like I said earlier, Looney Tunes is part of the DC multiverse.
Yeah. So Jackie Chan gets like another like spy assignment, and he's briefed in on this thing called the Mechanism, and they're not really sure what it is, just that some shady organization is making it and intends to use it to affect the planet. They don't know like what it's going to do yet, but they just know that it's a threat. So like what did you think of like using this as a way to sort of slowly introduce like what the conflict is?
I liked it. I found it kind of funny because like looking back is like, okay, the Mechanism like device to activate it is like shaped like a carrot. And even like they bring up, why make it look like a carrot? And then the villains later in the movie says, plot convenience. Again, I love how like I love the humor in here where it's like, we know this is stupid, so we're doing it.
Yeah, they mentioned to him that he will need like some help with this mission because it's not well, like he's used to doing these missions by himself, but they said that this is such a huge scale thing that he will need some help.
Like his first question is, "What about Agent Tucker?" And he's like, "Oh, Chris is doing something else with another movie. I think it's like a sequel to." They said like it's a sequel to The Fifth Element. They call it like he's doing The Sixth Element. They're like, "Oh, that movie never happened."
Right. Or maybe it did and we just forgot. I don't know. But
I was like, that's a nice little Rush Hour reference.
Yeah. And he asks, like, what about Damian Drake, you know, Timothy Dalton's character? And they're like, he's busy on another mission. It feels very much like that Spider-Man Far From Home scene, you know, where Spider-Man's naming all the different Avengers.
Oh yeah, it was very much like that. I especially love when he's like, what about Agent Connery? And he's like, he hasn't been the same since League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which was 20th Century Fox, I believe, would have been filmed around this time. Like, it came out in 2003. So it's like they were kind of making a joke in advance.
In that hindsight, I was like, man, you really didn't have any faith in that movie, did you? So when Jackie says, well, who have I got? And he's like, well, we got somebody, but like, you're not going to like it. And then it's like, it cuts to Bugs sleeping in his trailer, waiting to be filmed for the next short. And then he gets like, okay, have you ever seen Totally Spies?
Bits of it, because I know it was like on Miguzzi, and like I only watched Miguzzi for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003, and so whenever I flipped the channel to see if it was on, like sometimes Totally Spies was on, and like I've never like actually like really watched an episode, but from what I gather, it seems like a modern Charlie's Angels or something like that.
But like, why I bring that up is like there's this running gag wherever they get sent for a mission, they get like sucked up no matter where they are. So when Bugs is sleeping in his trailer, his this like suction tube comes out of nowhere, just slurps him up out of there and just vanishes without a trace. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if that was a reference to Totally Spies or was just being random, but I'll take it. But yeah, so Bugs gets thrown here and he's like, oh, so this is the cartoon. He's like, he looks at the screen and goes, so we're doing this movie now.
It's that funny, like, fourth wall breaking type of thing, which is sometimes, like, it's very much a Looney Tunes thing, and so it makes sense to include it in these movies as well. Like, Daffy wants to tag along as well on the mission, because he always wants to feel important, so he, like, sneaks into the plane with them, and, like, he's also on the mission.
Yeah, I love how like Bugs is like in the plane with Jackie, and he's like, and Jackie's like, you know, it's great working with you, and working with you, Bugs or Mr. Bunny. I've been a big fan. He's like, are you a fan of Daffy? And he goes like, no, why? Because he snuck in. He's like, how did you get in? The writers fit him in.
Yeah, like Jackie Chan seems really surprised that Daffy's here, and Bugs is like, if you were really a fan, you would have expected this, because like he and Daffy are just so tied together. And so I thought that was a really funny joke.
Yeah. He's like, did you not read the script before doing this?
Yeah, it's like this weird thing where they're able to break the fourth wall, but it also doesn't break the immersion for me. Like, it just feels normal for these movies somehow.
Yeah. Like, everyone says, like, oh, Deadpool really broke the fourth wall multiple times. I'm like, Bugs wrote the book on fourth wall breaking.
Deadpool feels very Looney Tunes, and I think Harley Quinn does as well, because, like, doesn't she kind of break the fourth wall every once in a while? I might be misremembering, but she definitely feels like a Looney Tunes character to me, at least in terms of, like, the slapstick sometimes.
Yeah, like, they've been trying to do that with the recent comics, but it just feels like they're really trying hard to make Harley DC Deadpool. Right.
Like, the comics that they've put out for her during New 52 and Rebirth have been hit and miss for me. Some have been good, some have been middle of the road, some have been bad. But, like, the Harley Quinn animated series is just all around excellent. It's like, oh, I wish the current comics could be more like the series. Like, this is hilarious.
I also find it funny that Harley does show up in the movie as like one of the evil agents, and it's also like gratifying because this is another performance by Harley's OG voice actress Arlene Sorkin. Bugs is like, when did this movie become a Harley Quinn promotional film?
Yeah, because this would have been at the time when like. I mean, by this point, Harley Quinn had been around for 10 years, but there were like a lot of Harley Quinn fans by this point. So, yeah. I mean, it just made sense, I guess, to include this. And so, like, you see her chasing like Bugs and Daffy around, trying to smash them with a giant hammer. And it just feels classic Looney Tunes,
I mean, it makes sense of having Harley be. And I'm surprised they didn't do this in the DC Looney Tunes crossovers of having Harley meet one of the Looney Tunes. They did have her in one crossover meet Gossamer, the shaggy red monster.
That one was weird.
I was like, if you were gonna have like who would you have picked to have Harley meet in terms of Looney Tunes?
I would have thought like maybe Bugs, Daffy, or maybe even Lola, perhaps. Like maybe you could have like done something interesting with that. But like Gossamer is like the furthest from my mind. Like I would not have paired Gossamer with any DC character, really.
Well, I would have picked him with like the Creature Commandos. The Creature Commandos are like a DC team that are like made of monsters. And they even have Frankenstein as a superhero in the DC universe. So as like their help, you could have done Gossamer and Frankenstein.
Yeah, I have read some of those Agent Frankenstein stories. It's really weird.
But yeah, like it was kind of a perfect pick. Going back to the movie, it was a really perfect pick to have Harley be, because she is such a Looney Tune to begin with. She just it feels, I don't know, it feels right? Am I right?
Right. So I went to search like what my thoughts were on the Gossamer crossover with Harley Quinn. It turns out I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And like I reviewed it on May 15th last year, which like as of when we're recording was like a year to the day of when I read it. That's spooky.
Yeah.
Like my brief review was like, with Harley herself being a cartoon character, this was a pretty good fit.
With the movie, Harley's enough of a Looney Tune. Like you could see her. Like I love the scene where she like pulls out the grenade launcher and she just blows up a building, and she just goes, "You ain't gonna see that on any Animaniacs."
Yeah, like you have all these like different references to like those WB cartoons, and it's just so it's weirdly satisfying because like it's all Warner Brothers properties, and you can have these references to all these weird things like Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Freakazoid even, and yeah, it's I don't know, it's just bonkers but a lot of fun.
Yeah, was there like I think I also liked some of the other evil agents, this villain group that were all trying to get the mechanisms key for. Like were you weirded out by having Freddy here though? By having Freddy Krueger be one of the villains?
Yeah, that was a really weird choice. And like even Bugs is like, aren't we kind of reaching here by including him? And so like after he says that, like Freddy Krueger puts on like the outfit of Freddy from Scooby-Doo, and he's like, is this more fitting? And Bugs is like, oh, whatever. Like you can tell he's like over this and just like knows how like the people making this thing like are just really reaching.
Yeah, because I think this was supposed to be like low-key promotion for Freddy versus Jason, because that movie came out the following year, and I was like, you're really reaching. If you're trying to promote Freddy versus Jason in a kids movie, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Although I will say it was cool to see Robert Englund in the costume, knowing that this is looking back, this is one of the last times he plays Freddy.
And like he's like, even though this is like toned down, they still did a really good job with like. It's weird, like they tried doing the makeup in a way where it doesn't look too scary for the kids in the audience, but you can still tell like, oh yeah, that's Freddy. And yeah, like just hearing Robert Englund do the Freddy voice is just like music to the ears of the fans, I guess.
Yeah, I will say that like the villains they pick to use as the evil agents to get the mechanism, like Harley, Freddy, they're all like you could see like these are all people you could see butt heads with Bugs. Like they're your typical people Bugs bounces off of in terms of like the villains he fights.
Yeah, definitely. Like Bugs is I feel like Bugs has been like all over the place in terms of like the types of villains that he fights. So it's like he can do pretty much anything, and Spy Jam was taking advantage of that. And like off to the side, you have Jackie Chan being like, "What the hell is even happening anymore?" And he's like ends up having to do like a fist fight with Freddy Krueger. Like I bet people at the time didn't expect to see Freddy versus Jackie before Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, I also love I can't believe they got away with this. Is like the scene where Freddy gets tired of chasing Bugs and Daffy, and then they come in Bugs and Daffy come back in disguise, offering him a milkshake, and it's a laxative milkshake. He breaks it and runs. He's like, "Grrr." You hear his stomach go. "Grrr." Uh-oh. He runs to the bathroom, but as he does, Bugs ties like his arm behind him, so now he only has the glove hand. So he's like, "Oh no." He's trying to like wipe it. You could hear him like trying to wipe himself and just screaming on the other end of the bathroom stall.
Yeah, it's like they did the joke from the Iron Giant with the laxative, but they actually made it edgier with the Freddy glove. It's like, yeah, I'm also surprised that they got away with that. It's bizarre.
Yeah. And then like when Freddy comes back out of the stall, he's like he just looks like a wreck. Like he's caught. You see him like limping out of the bathroom with a toilet paper stuck to his foot.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm done. You win."
Yeah, he's like, "This is the most horrific thing to happen in any of my movies." It's like, wait, really? I mean, okay. I mean, like I've seen pretty violent things happen in your movies, pal, but I guess.
And I love like and then to add insult to injury, Daffy has like a camera and he goes, "Welcome to prime time, Fred." I was like, Dream Warrior reference.
Yeah, and then you hear like a snippet of the Dream Warriors theme song, which I've always thought was like really cheesy, but it fits really well here.
And actually, like I love like when it plays the snippet, and then like then he goes like, "Oh no," and the freaking Dokken, the band who played that song, bust down the wall with the guitar riff and just make Freddy explode with their music.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan is like, he raises an eyebrow at this, and he's like, "How'd you do that?" And they're like, "The power of rock and roll, baby." And just do more cheesy guitar licks.
He's like, and then he turns to Bugs and says, "Thanks for making us relevant for 5 minutes."
Yeah.
Was there any other like villains that like showed up? You're like, "Oh, cool." That was a fun cameo.
Yeah, like I was very surprised that they brought back what's his name? The virus from Osmosis Jones, who was played by Lawrence Fishburne. I'm gonna look up his name real quick.
Yeah, Thrax.
Yeah, Thrax. Like he's human size this time, and I mean by this time people would have watched Osmosis Jones presumably, and like Daffy was like, "Hey, wait a minute, I thought you died," and he was like, "Yeah, but I'm okay now. They reanimated me." And he just looks at the camera and just does a cheesy ass wink because it's like, "Oh, okay, reanimated. I get it." It's like my type of humor with all the puns.
Yeah, it was fun. And then like it's actually Daffy who beats him because like he goes in to gut Daffy, and Daffy just pulls out a spray bottle that kills 99.9% germs on. It says it kills 99.7% germs, and to which Thrax says, "Ha, I'm the 0.1% germ. You ain't gonna kill me." And then Daffy just scribbles 100% germs and kills him.
Yeah, it feels like, I don't know if this was intentional, but it felt to me like a callback to like the first Space Jam movie when they have the water that Bugs labels secret stuff, and like it's like a placebo effect where like everyone who drinks it thinks that it makes them stronger, and so they are stronger. like it kind of felt like it was like a similar idea happening here, where like whatever you write on the thing is what it is, apparently.
Yeah, but again, that's just this the 100% spray bottle thing was literally like, yeah, it's just Looney Tune logic at that point.
Yeah, Looney Tune logic or lack thereof.
I also love how like the villains of this group who are chasing Jackie and the Daffy and Bugs are like cycling through villains to send, like they sent Harley, Thrax, Freddy, and they cycle through like Scorpion and Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, and like they look at Pennywise and it's like Tim Curry Pennywise, and they're like, no.
Yeah, well, like Jackie Chan is like, there's this running gag throughout the movie where Jackie keeps encountering like really bizarre things, like all these different villains and different fights, and he's like, this is why I'm gonna retire. And then the next thing happens, he's like, no, this is why I'm going to retire. And it's like, we get it. Like by the end of the movie, we know you're not really gonna retire. Like it's not gonna be like Space Jam 2 where Michael Jordan does retire. Like it's like, I guess it helps that like you and I have the hindsight that like he's made a lot more movies since this one. So like we knew like how the movie was gonna end, I guess.
Yeah. Although I will admit I wanted to see Jackie Chan fight Scorpion.
Yeah, like the Scorpion fight was really fun. Like I think there's even a moment where Jackie says "get over here," but in like a different tone. But it's like, you know, that it's like a reference to Mortal Kombat.
He goes like, come here this second, and then Scorpion goes, actually it's get over. Oh god.
Yeah, and like when they fight, it turns into like they change into like the style of a Mortal Kombat game, where it's like from the side and like that type of Mortal Kombat video game animation of the time. And like Jackie is confused by it, but he just rolls with it.
Yeah,
and so
he does Liu Kang's helicopter kick.
Yeah. And like it seems like Jackie's about to lose because like his health bar is low, but then he's like, oh wait a minute, I can just move to the side. And so like he gets closer to the camera and moves to the right, because it's like he's able to move 3-dimensionally, whereas in this fight Scorpion can only move 2-dimensionally. And so he has an advantage and is able to like defeat Scorpion.
Yeah, he like, and here the best part is like when Jackie like sidesteps Scorpion, he goes flying into like an oven, and you just hear Scorpion just burn in this oven, and then Daffy pops up out of the side of the screen going toasty.
Yeah, and Bugs is like, well, I don't really know why we had to have Scorpion as an adversary, but I mean, if it makes you money, I guess.
It's like,
and then you see like money signs in the background.
Yeah. I even love the little like I love like during all this he's like, how do I explain this scene? It's like Daffy and this is the end of the film, but I want to bring it up because I'll forget. It's like Jackie, Daffy, and Bugs are like, man, I could use a vacation, and Bugs goes, you mean like somewhere at Six Flags amusement parks?
Yeah, like he mentions Magic Mountain, and like, yeah.
Because yeah, the Looney Tune characters are licensed at Six Flags, and they have like Warner Brothers has a lot of presence.
Yeah, have you ever been to Magic Mountain?
No, I've only I live in Florida, so I'm only at the Florida parks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been there at least a few times as a kid, and yeah, like the Looney Tunes portion of the park was like, that was my jam, pun intended. But yeah, like I've never gone. Like I've only gone as a kid, so I've never really been able to go to the like big roller coasters there. Like I just haven't been there since then. So yeah, I guess if I do eventually go back, I'll have some catching up to do. But yeah, like they license the Looney Tunes characters, and in the first Space Jam movie, I'm pretty sure Moron Mountain is a reference to Magic Mountain.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. There's a scene in Cat in the Hat with the Mike Myers live action movie where everything stops and goes, you mean an amusement park? Like Universal Studios?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Cat in the Hat came out after this, so I think Cat in the Hat might have stolen from Spy Jam, but yeah, it's like a really weird thing like that gag. And yeah, I just find it hilarious when things like that happen. Like, speaking of Mike Myers, like even back in the first Wayne's World movie, there's that scene where like he's doing all these product placement things, and it's just really funny scene. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's so much product placement in Spy Jam as well, which is par for the course for these live action Looney Tunes movies. What was like a product placement moment that really stuck out for you, other than the ones we mentioned?
I really like the scene where like Freddy's chasing Bugs and Daffy through the Nike store, and they like accidentally break the N, and it's just called Ike. And he goes, "Hey!" And Bugs stops and goes, "Wait! Gotta fix it." He fixes the N, and he goes, "Gotta get that product placement."
Yeah. I also liked the one, like the moment where like Jackie and Bugs and Daffy are exhausted from like all this spy work. And so Bugs is like, well, you can regain some energy by drinking some good old Gatorade. And he takes out a blue Gatorade bottle and just drinks it, and like it gives them bottles as well. And like after they drink it, it's like they feel re-energized, like they can take on the whole world again. So
Yeah.
it feels like a callback to Space Jam 1, except it's like not necessarily a placebo thing. It's just Gatorade advertising, and it just so happens to work here.
Yeah. And then like, oh, what was another one that was blatant, but it was like done in a way like we know what we're doing, and we're just gonna make fun of it. Oh, the Taco Bell one. You remember the Taco Bell one?
Oh yeah, like they were feeling hungry. Like it was very random. It happened in between fights, and it was just like some place. I was like, it was just some Taco Bell that was on the way there. Well, like they were. So at this point, like they had like there's like a plane fight scene, and they crash into like this winter tundra, and just somewhere out in the wilderness, out in the snow, is a Taco Bell, and they just go inside to eat, and like they have some spicy stuff, the Taco Bell sauce, and it's the classic thing of like Daffy has some and just breathes fire, which yeah.
I love like that moment where they're in the like frozen tundra and they see the Taco Bell there, and he's like, "Why is there product?" Jackie goes, "Why is there?" And Daffy goes, "Product placement."
Yeah.
They like open the door, and it's like, thank you for being at the start for promoting this movie.
Yeah,
because like they're starving, and it's just like, I don't care what it is, give it to me and we will promote Taco Bell. Like we'll eat it in front of the camera and everything.
Yeah, and later on when they have to fight like some evil spies again, the sauce packets really come in handy. Like Daffy like rips them open and is like, "We're gonna win this fight thanks in part to Taco Bell." And so he puts it on his tongue and breathes fire on like the evil spies, and so like that helps them like win that fight. It was just bonkers.
Yeah. I also like how like when Thrak shows up at the Taco Bell and like attacks them, he's like, Daffy goes, "No, not for my $1.99 gordita."
Have you ever had the like Taco Bell thing where it's like a taco that's made of Doritos or something?
Oh, the Dorito tacos, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And also like the Fritos burrito or whatever it's called.
Yeah. It's good
Like,
too. It's one of the few things like Taco Bell, like it all tastes the same, let's be real.
yeah, like Taco Bell is not top tier, but it's like a place to go to for convenience. Like obviously it's not authentic Mexican food. Like there are lots of
I work
places.
I work at a non-authentic Mexican restaurant. I know.
Yeah, Taco Bell is like the food is like it's okay. Like you could just like if you're just craving something, you could just have a quick snack and like it'll fill you up, I guess. Oh, that reminds me. Delayed Replay is sponsored by Taco Bell. No, we're not. So those are my Taco Bell thoughts, I guess.
Man,
Also,
this is
also cheap prices, I guess. So yeah, that's another benefit.
Have you noticed that we've diverted a lot in this podcast? Like, this is the one where I feel like we've rambled the most.
Well, I mean, it's very on brand for this topic because in Spy Jam, they go on lots of different tangents and divergence that are related to product placement.
It's almost like they didn't know what to do with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this movie is so all over the place that it's a miracle that it landed the way that it did. Like, it just felt like they were throwing darts at a board or like putting red strings to connect different things, and we're just hoping that it would be like lightning in a bottle, which it kind of was. Like, I think Jackie Chan is the real MVP of this. Like, we haven't given him enough credit for just like, he actually has pretty good comedic timing in Spy Jam. Like, I just love seeing like his reactions and everything.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like the highlight, especially like seeing him bounce off of cartoons that aren't there, and it's kind of fun. But like that's the thing. Like, it's more believable here in Spy Jam than Space Jam because it feels like Michael Jordan didn't know. Like, you clearly see he's having trouble acting with stuff that isn't there. Here, it's like Jackie's just, you can believe he's talking to Bugs Bunny.
I wonder if part of it is that technology has improved a little bit, maybe, or like they've refined the techniques rather of making it look like you're talking to the animated character. But yeah, I agree. It does look like a bit of an improvement. Like, it's not something I really noticed while watching the original Space Jam, but it's like if you're looking for it, like maybe you can kind of see it. And like here, it's like, yeah, Jackie is making direct eye contact with like Bugs and Daffy and all these other characters.
Totally, yeah.
So they eventually get to the mechanism in Amsterdam, and like this is where they have like the climactic like final fight, I guess you could say. What'd you think of how this whole thing went down?
It was good. I mean, it's a well choreographed action scene, and it's a giant four-armed robot, and I love the scene where like it's just this giant generic robot, and Bugs stops and goes, "We couldn't get Voltron for this picture."
And Bugs adds, like, they didn't even bring in Atomo, like how the evil Iron Giant looks in the Iron Giant movie. This is pretty lazy.
Yeah, he calls real quick. He's like, "Can we get somebody else recast the robot?" Oh, the Iron Giant's busy. The Voltron, we don't have rights to Voltron. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a Family Guy joke where like someone will be on the phone and you'll only hear their side of the conversation, not the other side. So yeah, I got a real kick out of that moment.
Yeah, and also the plan for the mechanism. The mechanism in question is called the I can't even believe I'm going to say this. Flatulence 5000.
Yes, because obviously the kids in the audience love their poopy and fart jokes.
And I even love how even Daffy goes, "This is even lowbrow for me."
Yeah, like, and it makes like fart noises when it's activated.
Yeah, and it's like it does the like that 2001 theme is like dun dun dun, but it's in farts.
Yeah, so it's like. I don't know if I did that exactly like how it sounds, but you get the idea. That was my mouth, by the way, just for clarification. Like, I wasn't actually farting.
Don't worry, folks. He doesn't fart on command.
These farts are brought to you by Taco Bell. No.
Actually, yes.
No, but also yes. So yeah, they're fighting against this giant robot and trying to like stop the mechanism from being activated across the world, because like the flatulence, whatever it's called, is supposed to cause like pollution all over the world. And like I don't think we really get why the evil spies want to do this, but it's like you just kind of accept it, I guess, because it's Looney Tunes, it's silly, you know?
Yeah, but the thing is like it like they even like the best they give is like, "Why would you cover the world in farts?" And he goes, "Farts are funny."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, all right, it's 2002 Looney Tunes. I'll roll with it.
Yeah, and so they fight against this robot, and Jackie Chan is able to hold his own. Like, by this point, you pretty much just accept that he can do anything, but he's still struggling a little bit trying to hold back the robot. And so he's like, I could use a little help over here. And then Bugs makes a phone call, and he's like arguing with like some WB person. And he's like, look, just work them into the schedule somehow. And then after the phone call ends, you see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from like the 2003 versions show up, and they're like, check out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003, and they do the theme song like in full, and then like as they fight the robot.
Yeah, and it's funny because they weren't even owned by Warner Brothers, so it's like, how much did that cost?
Yeah, because it used to be like Fox Kids or whatever, and then later it became 4Kids Entertainment. I don't know, it's really weird, but yeah, the way they were able to get them into this movie, it's like so unexpected, because it's like, whoa, they really went all out trying to like work with other studios here.
Yeah, it's also funny because like the 2003 cartoon was really good, but like it didn't have now if this was done in the 80s, people would lose their minds.
Yeah, the 2003 version is my favorite.
Yeah, I think mine would be the 2012 version.
Okay, the 2012 version I did really enjoy. Like it feels like a nice bridge between the 80s and 2003 ones in terms of the tone and the types of stories that they told, you know?
Yeah, it's also fun because and I know it's another rant real quick, another divergence in the thing, but like, have you ever like heard this, and this is actually confirmed, that every TMNT show and comic and whatever is canon simultaneously?
Well, I mean, Turtles Forever kind of suggests that, right?
Yeah, like it basically says, yeah, every Ninja Turtle thing ever is all canon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can accept that.
One of my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles moments is when Batman says, "This is where my parents died, Raphael." But like when you see that panel out of context, like it's just really funny for some reason.
Anyway, so the turtles show up, but the robot keeps beating them, and then out of nowhere, like I feel like this is where Kevin Feige got the idea for that portal scene in Endgame, because like every Warner Brothers thing shows up, like the Justice League shows up, the Teen Titans, the animated Teen Titans version shows up, like every like thing, even Harry Potter shows up,
Yeah. And you even see the Vorlons from Babylon 5. Like, this is just really insane.
Yeah. Even, like, Turl from Battlefield Earth shows up, and they all look like, get out of here.
Yeah. And then, it feels very similar to that Captain America moment, except instead of Avengers Assemble, it zooms in on Jackie Chan doing a pose. He's like, spies jam, and then like they all go into a fight and it goes into like a remix of what's the song in Space Jam where it goes, come on and slam and welcome to the jam. Like it's a different version where instead of Space Jam they say Spy Jam, and like some of the lyrics are kind of different, so it's like, everybody get up, we're gonna spy around everybody.
Steve,
what?
Stop singing. Steve, you're a good friend, but don't sing, okay?
I mean, I do sing other songs better, but
we don't need a Spy Jam cover. It's okay. I have no doubt that you're a good singer, Steve, but like, no.
Pokemon karaoke mon. No.
Speaking of Pokemon, Team Rocket is in the crew, and I love that scene where they're like, usually we're the ones blasting off again, and like the robot just punches them off. He's like, we spoke too soon.
Yeah, that was a really well done, witty moment. So yeah, they destroy the robot, and then they have to like go to the mechanism, and so they open it up, and Daffy is like, which wire is it? Is it the blue one, the red one, the green one? Like, he goes through like all the different colors he can imagine, like, pretty much. And Bugs is like, try the polka dot one. And so he tries that, and then it like accelerates the countdown a little bit. And then Jackie Chan like goes up to it and he's like, I know what I must do. And oh, what'd you think of what Jackie Chan did here?
It was weird to see him like just start randomly push buttons, and he's just and Bugs is like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm following your example. He's like, and Bugs just has this look of, yep, that's my boy. Because like the whole story is like Bugs trying to like teach, because Jackie plays this very straight-laced, very like he plays like the straight man who like doesn't like believe in like Bugs and Daffy's chaotic nature, and he's like, now he's just embracing it.
Yeah. And so eventually he finds a button that like stops the mechanism. Like it's actually a button that's like gigantic and says stop mechanism, and they're like, how did we miss that? And so he presses it, and like it's like the machine pretty much stops working, and it's like, yeah, they saved the day.
Yeah, and like I love how it saves the day when it's stopping the machine. It like just gives the guy, it just pours in Pepto-Bismol into it to stop the farts.
Yeah. And like one of the evil spies who is still around, he's like, no. And he like goes up to the buttons and he's like, if I can't succeed, then none of us will make it out. And so he presses this button that says self-destruct, but it only destructs him. Like it only destroys him. And the Bugs is like, well, it does say self-destruct and he destroyed himself. So I guess it's exactly as advertised.
And he's like, look, there's only like 10 minutes left in this picture. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, so like they return to Hollywood or whatever. Like they go to the Warner lot and have meetings. And so Bugs is like, you know what? I'm willing to not retire as long as you offer me more money. And they're like, you know what? Whatever. Then they just throw wads of cash at him. And Jackie is like, you know what? I think I'm not going to retire either. This whole adventure has shown me that there are lots of spy missions and movies that I can still do. And so, yeah, like obviously, like this isn't the end of his career, but like it's pretty much the end of his arc in Spy Jam, which was something.
Yeah, something is a very good answer. Like that's a good description of all this. And I even love like he even says like Bug says like, so you got anything new for me, fellas? And they hand him the script to Back in Action.
Yeah, and he just looks at it and he's like, no thanks. And he just like puts it in a trash can, and then Brendan Fraser pulls it out and like looks at it and he's like, I kind of like this.
And he's even wearing the gear from the Mummy. Like he just walked out of filming the sequel.
Yeah, because like he was like in Back in Action, he says he was the stunt double for his character in the Mummy movies, and so I guess like even after the sequel's been filmed, he's still walking around wearing it. And like obviously they kind of seed in Timothy Dalton's character in Spy Jam a little bit, so like he obviously comes back as like Brendan Fraser's dad in Back in Action, which was kind of funny. Like I didn't realize until recently that was him. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched Doom Patrol, but it's almost like Niles Calder being the dad of Robot Man, which is pretty funny.
You know, I didn't think about that until you told me.
Yeah.
I legit forgot that they were in a movie together.
Yeah. And so obviously, like, you know, with him and Jackie being spies, they like put on their spy gears, like get ready for a mission, but they put on like some shades and take out like the Men in Black memory erasing devices and look at the audience and use it on the audience. It's like unless you blink during that moment, you'll like forget this movie. So yeah, that happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's all over the place, but would you expect anything from an early 2000s movie involving the Looney Tunes?
Yeah, I mean, it was very jam-packed, so it was very on brand. Yeah, I guess we could go into final thoughts and score out of 10. So, what are your final thoughts and score out of 10 for Spy Jam?
All in all, fun movie. It's all over the place, but like at least the humor is there, and Jackie Chan and like is always fun to watch, and the fights were well choreographed, and the story is admittedly exactly what you come to see for these type of movies. So all in all, I'm going to give this 7 Freddy Krueger toilet problems out of 10.
Nice. Yeah, like I found this, it was a really fun movie to watch. It is all over the place, but you just kind of accept it. And I don't know, like it has like a satirical edge to it that I really enjoyed. I still enjoy the original Space Jam more, but that's probably because of nostalgia and like knowing I've watched that movie a lot more. So I think I'm gonna give Spy Jam 8 out of 10 talismans, like the ones from Jackie Chan Adventures.
Okay.
But yeah, overall fun movie, and thanks again for being on this podcast. Where can people find your stuff?
They can find me on Mr. Multiverse on YouTube.
Nice. Yeah, go ahead and find the YouTube channel and subscribe, listeners. And I don't know, eat some Taco Bell while you watch those videos, I guess, if you want.
My videos have a tendency to cause bowel movements, so.
Fair enough. As for my plugs, you can find me at Steven Shinder on Twitter and Instagram, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. You can find my novel, Lemons Like Rain. It's on Amazon. More info at stevenshinder.com. You can email Delayed Replay at delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Maybe your thoughts and comments will be read on the show. It could even be like a comment or message on social media. You can still find Star Trek Culture on the Culture Slate YouTube channel in the playlist section. And keep an eye out for Yes Shit. Me and my dad have recorded some stuff, so we just need to edit and figure out when to put that up. You know, it's a podcast about the progressive rock band Yes, and it's been fun to record, so I'm really excited to have fellow Yes fans listen to that.
I actually want to listen to that because I've only known Yes for like 2 things. I think I told you this last time, the Owner of a Lonely Heart and that Moonlight Desire song.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, like, how big was Yes outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, on the second episode that we've recorded, it focuses on the keyboardists of Yes, and just recapping all the different keyboardist changes that they've gone through, because they've had the most, like, out of the different types of instruments that have been in the band, the keyboard is the one with where the door has rotated the most. And so, like, even just like me and my dad recapping it, like we divided it between ourselves. Like even like that took like a few minutes or several minutes to like recap for anyone who's like unfamiliar or needs a refresher on like all the different keyboardists who've been in the band. So yeah, it's a wild history, that band. I don't know if there's a band that's had an even weirder history than this one, but that might just be because I'm super familiar with this one and just know a lot. So yeah. But all that is to say, thanks for listening. The next episode will be Matrix. And without further delay, have a good day.